Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Spotlight with Sandalina. I'm your talk show host, Sandalina Sattar, and today's guest is Faaris, who is a South Asian Muslim rapper, full-time data engineer, and unfortunately, also my cousin.
It is unfortunate.
Thanks for coming on the show, I guess.
Thank you for having me.
Are you really that thankful, or?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Okay.
It's a vibe. New York's a vibe.
Okay, yeah. Not thankful to be here specifically, just the city,
It's
not
a
with your
package deal, I
awesome
guess.
cousin.
I have other
No
cousins.
compliments today? All right, yeah. Well,
No. It's cool. Setup's crazy.
This is the part where I usually talk about how I met somebody in New York City. But with this guest, we were actually just born into the same family. Our dads are brothers. So Faaris was born and raised in Austin. I've been born and raised in California. And we've had a lot of commonalities being kind of the older siblings in both of our respective nuclear families. The reason that I thought he'd be a really great guest for this show is because he has been pursuing music on the side of his full-time job. And I've seen the way that it's evolved and the way that he's evolved over the past couple of years pursuing this venture. And I've honestly admired him as a younger cousin, which I would never say to his face. I'm not looking at him right now, which helps. But I figured it'd be a good opportunity to just get to know him and get to know his story. So, yeah.
Sorry, also my voice is like shot, but we ride.
Yeah, I'm aware. Let's just start at the beginning. So tell us a little bit about your upbringing, namely where you're born and raised, a little bit about your parents, your siblings.
I mean, Austin, Texas. Shout out. That's where I was born. Still there, actually. My dad actually came here to go to UT with your dad. And so he's been in Austin. I was born here. My brother was born there.
Tell us a little bit more about your parents. So what do they do? What are their sort of personalities? If you had to assign like stereotypical characteristics.
Classic. My dad works at Dell. Mom's stay at home. Shout out her. Raised me and my brother.
Yeah.
We would be even bigger goons if she probably didn't do that. So my brother, he's 4 years younger than me. He is chill. I mean, just like me, obviously. I raised the kid for sure. I still see him as like a baby. I don't know if you have that thing with your like siblings. I mean, my brother's like 21 now.
That's crazy.
He's like 13 in my head.
Yeah, your brother's always going to be 11 to me. Like, that's never going to change.
Just my brother, my two parents, and they've all been super supportive of everything. I mean, work, music, everything in between.
So what was their parenting philosophy in raising you? Did they have more of a tight control on you? Were they very liberal?
Like, I grew up thinking one thing, and then maybe once I grew up and saw other parents, I was wrong, actually. They weren't like strict or anything. They were, I mean, super chill. Then I think I saw like really strict parents. I'm like, oh, my parents like really chill, actually. No, they were super lenient and kind of just let me and my brother like make our own decisions and just kind of like sit with whatever consequences those come with, which I feel like is the best way to learn. Like, if my parents constantly told me can't do this, like I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah.
And then if they kind of just let me like do everything under the sun with no repercussions, then I would also just be unhinged.
I think just knowing your parents, I can say for a fact that relative to the average Muslim family, they're very, very liberal and understanding. And it's been really nice to kind of have that support in an aunt and an uncle. My parents, I think, are maybe a little like more traditional ever so slightly, but I think they're pretty liberal too. And I think that's why we have so much in common as cousins, because we both were very lucky to kind of have that upbringing where we were never held down to a certain path or told that we have to be this or we have to be that. And I think that's honestly why in our family, like creativity celebrated. I mean, you know, both of our sets of parents know that we're doing this episode today, and they're really excited and hyped about this, that both of our creative passions are kind of crossing paths at this point in time. And I think it's a beautiful thing, and we owe it to our upbringing and our parents. So that's, I think, really, really incredible. What's been your role as an older brother? I know you mentioned you feel like you raised your little brother and he takes after you in a lot of ways.
Literally one day I just see him as like a fetus. Like I literally see him as like a non-human.
Yeah.
And then one day he's like going to college and has like a personality and we're like hanging out like friends. Like there was definitely a hard transition into like friendship almost. Like I mean, we were friends, of course.
Yeah.
But like one day I felt like I could talk to him about more things. Once he like grew up a little bit, they really just like develop into like actual people.
For so long, we kind of boxed them into this identity as this, you know, this like young kid that runs around and annoys us sometime. And then when they grow up and start having their own likes and dislikes and personalities and experiences, and they come to you about it, it's I think a kind of slap in the face from reality that, you know, this little annoying kid that ran around is actually a full-fledged adult and experiencing a lot of things that we just experienced a few years ago.
Seeing your own, like, I went through this a few years ago, now they're going through it is actually the craziest part.
It is really crazy. Tell me a little bit more about Texas. So as a Californian, I cannot fathom the state of Texas. I visited a few times, but it it is very similar, I think, to the Bay Area in a lot of ways. There's a very strong presence of South Asians, which I think it's nice to have that
Yeah.
sort of community. But it is always going to be a little bit different. There's different like political affiliations. There's different characters beyond the South Asian community that, when I'm in Austin, I'm always a little bit surprised when I see some of the figures. It's just very different than where I grew up. But tell me a little bit about that.
I mean, politically, Texas is obviously one of a kind, maybe, especially
Yes.
compared to like a California.
Yeah.
But luckily, Austin is super like diverse and just like friendly and
Yeah.
like I don't know. I like you walk around Austin and like the vibes are very like people are hanging out outdoors. Everyone's like
Yeah.
kind of typical like smiling, cheering. People are playing in parks. Some of the other like cities, I mean, there's a lot of like rural areas, obviously.
Yeah.
But like the major cities are pretty. They kind of remind me. I mean, obviously not like the extent of like the Bay or like the
Sure.
Cali cities, which are like huge like
Yeah.
centers like for the world. Really, like LA is like known worldwide.
Right.
San Francisco, but I think it's also kind of like developing into
Yeah.
in that direction,
Yeah.
especially like Austin, Dallas, and Houston. Houston's like huge too, especially for music.
What were your dreams as a kid? What kind of personality type did you fit when you were in your young, say, like middle school, elementary school days?
I was definitely very class clownish.
I could see that.
But in terms of dreams, I feel like I just wanted to be like a basketball player or something. Just like every other kid, every other brown kid, just like want to be an athlete. And I got to like middle school, high school, and I was like, oh, there's like actually people who are like really good at sports out here.
I remember when we were younger, you kind of had like the Justin Bieber haircut for a good amount of your
I did.
childhood, like the
Okay.
bowl cut. Let's talk
Let
about
me
that.
stop you right there. Let me stop you right there. I honestly had the haircut, I think, before Justin Bieber.
Okay.
Like, if you really think about it, if we do like a time, we get a fact check on that. I mean, yeah, the swoosh, I was like 11.
So you would say that you invented Justin Bieber, maybe?
I mean, I wouldn't say that, but if someone argued it, we get into a debate. That's for sure. If you're watching, I still want the feature, Justin. I'm sorry.
So I know when we were younger, you had a YouTube channel. I think you would make YouTube videos with your friends. I don't know if it was like an iPod or it was some like very archaic device.
In Stone Ages. I mean, I've always loved being creative. Like the idea of like uploading something to YouTube at that time was like
Yeah.
really cool. Especially like I watched a lot of YouTubers.
Oh,
Like in
okay.
like skits. And like that was kind of like up my alley too, like the kinds of jokes they were making. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I just thought it was like really cool that people were like doing that and like living out their dreams essentially.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I just started making YouTube videos. Like, I mean, we literally just had like a family camera, so it'd literally be like family pictures and then random videos of me and my friends like doing the dumbest stuff. I kind of grant my foundation of like editing and even just like putting together like creative ideas and planning and stuff like that. Like, I kind of attribute it to like those days.
Yeah, I think it comes out when you're young. And it's really nice that we were born in the time where YouTube and social media was starting to develop. Because I think that, go back a generation, there's probably a lot of suppressed creativity that nobody knows about to this day because they didn't have those
Yeah.
outlets. So I think we're very fortunate. Moving on to kind of your high school days, what was your persona in high school? What character were you if you had to place yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I had a decent amount of friends. I think I was hanging out a lot. Pretty tight knit friend group though, like 5-6 guys, and we were making YouTube videos and we were
Yeah.
like doing everything, and they got me to start rapping, which we'll get into and stuff. That's really what it's about, like finding your people,
Yeah.
like having just like making the most out of what is a growing experience for sure.
Back in high school, one of your friends used to post on Vine a decent amount, and I think you were involved
Oh,
with
yeah?
that. So what was your involvement level?
Shout out the boy will lead. He had like the similar kind of mindset that we also grew up together. Yeah, actually, back to the other point, like I had friends in high school, but it was kind of interesting because I also had this like group of friends outside of school that I grew up with, like in the
Yeah.
Austin, like Pakistani, like Muslim community
Right.
that like I've also known since like birth, essentially. It was also like, I mean, still is like a really special like group of guys and group of friends. And so yeah, one of the guys, Waleed, had kind of like a similar mindset in that like, just like making stuff is cool and like being
Yeah.
creative and getting your ideas out there. And yeah, that was more during the Vine time, which was goated era. I
Yeah.
miss those days. But really the cycle of all this, I feel like in anything creative is like you see people you kind of look up to
Yeah.
and you draw inspiration. So like we would watch so like he did a lot of like special effects finds, and there's like Zach King, who's like the goat of that. So we'd be like, wow, like
Yeah.
inspired. And so it's the same way, like I would watch YouTubers be inspired. I listen to rappers, I get inspired. So it's kind of just like that cycle of trying to like be something like that.
I think it's incredible because it starts in the early days, but look at both of you now. I mean, you're making music and it's gaining traction, I think. And he's in Hollywood now as an agent, and he's making it big too. And I think it's incredible that you both started early on. Transitioning a little bit more to college. So tell us about college. Where did you go to school? What did you study? What did you do in your free time? Who were you in college?
Damn, who was I in college? Who am I right now, really? I went to University of Texas at Dallas, and I studied computer science. So to be honest, I didn't like hanging out with a lot of computer science people. Right. The major is also like 98% guys, not like the most social guys you've ever met either.
Yeah.
We got to change that. Started rapping kind of like me and my friends would just like dumb stuff that every college kid does, really, just hanging out, just kind of finding like what I like to do, honestly, finding who I like to hang out with.
I think it's a good time for exploration and just kind of understanding who you are away from home. Because I think up until that point, we're all under our parents' roofs, and it doesn't matter how amazing your parents are, you're always going to kind of be the person you were growing up because you're under that sort of environment and watch. And going away from home, it can be scary, but I think you learn a lot about yourself, and it's definitely an adjustment. But I also know in college you were a frat guy actually for a little bit. How was that experience? How is it being in a frat?
When you say it like that, it makes it sound like I'm a freaking Chad out here. No, yeah, I mean, I was in it for like 2 years. So like most people, like freshmen, they come, and I was like late to the game for sure. Had fun. I made a lot of friends, made good connections. It was like just enough out of my comfort zone. Yeah. Like there's like a good margin of like out of my comfort zone. Yeah. And that was kind of in that. Like it was still kind of weird and like not in my, I don't know, character. Like freshman, sophomore year, that wasn't even an idea. Actually, my roommate, he like joined, he pledged. And so I was just like tagging along, honestly. Yeah.
Greek life is really big, and I think it can be kind of the avenue for social interaction, meeting new people. So going on to kind of forming your world view. So you're Muslim, as am I. So tell me a little bit more about your involvement with the Muslim community and kind of how that influence shaped you growing up.
My like religious ties definitely come from like the people I grew up with, and like my parents and my cousins. Like I have a lot of cousins in Pakistan, and like when you go there, like it gets instilled a lot more.
Yeah, it's different out there.
Honestly, I feel like sometimes it comes in waves.
Sure. Yeah.
I try to be better about that, but it's just the reality.
How would you describe, I guess, the Muslim community in Austin? Well, I can give you an example. I think in the Bay Area, I think like there's a lot of Muslims and it's great. But sometimes it can be overwhelming because there is kind of a gossip culture with aunties and stuff. And even Hassan Minhaj talks about this. Like there's so much fear of lokat genge. So going back to that, tell me a little bit more about the dynamics within the Muslim community in Austin.
It's honestly probably pretty similar. The gossip stuff like that is definitely probably not exclusive to the Bay or anywhere, because Austin definitely gets down with it like that. Like, I mean, I don't know. I feel like maybe every community like comes with its little toxicity. And I mean, that's just like what it is. Like with everything that's like good, there's always going to be like a little bit that's, and it's unfortunate because that probably drives some people away. Yeah. I'm pretty lucky. I feel like I didn't really have any problems. Yeah, no, that culture is definitely present.
I think it's kind of unavoidable, but one thing I really admire about your parents is that they're very active in the social scene there, but they managed to, I think, take the positives of it and make that kind of your guys' reality. And I think that's a really special thing that they were able to do, is keep good people around you, because it can be difficult. There may be a little bit of leeway given to guys in the community, I think, when it comes to like gossip and auntie talk. But when you first started making music, were you ever worried about backlash from the community or judgment or any sort of, because the entertainment space isn't really a common route for a lot of Muslim kids?
More than that, I was just worried that people were going to think it was like bad. My main concern, I'm like, oh, this is going to be like whack, cringe, and like embarrassing. The judgment stuff, I honestly, and like, to this day, I like almost practice this thing of like, I can't even like think about that. I just like almost just trick myself into like, oh, like no one's even listening, like tunnel vision and go forward. Yeah. And I feel like you kind of just have to move that way. Like if I constantly think about like, oh, like if I'm like writing stuff and I'm like, oh, like this person's gonna like hear it, like what are these people gonna say? Like it's definitely gonna like hinder my creativity, my music, my everything. And I'd be lying if I said that thought didn't creep in like every once in a while for sure. But like,
it's inevitable.
yeah, I try my best to avoid those thoughts.
Yeah. How do you think your spirituality has impacted your kind of moral compass growing up? And I also want to point out, I think it's interesting that, you know, kind of the point you mentioned is a lot of kids run away from the community, but I think it's really nice because when you have a set of parents that are very liberal and understanding, I think it, you know, it has the opposite effect. Instead of like your kid taking advantage of that, they actually stay closer to home. And I think they're also able to, you know, try to work on that spirituality aspect, especially in like Ramzan and stuff that comes every year. I think that's a really special time for a lot of us. But you know, going back to the main question, how do you think your spirituality has impacted your moral compass, and how does that kind of shape who you are today?
Whenever I've talked to my dad about like religion, like he almost like kind of taught me that what's really important is like, I mean, like the belief, the faith, and like the principles of like, because I mean, like in my opinion, none of it really matters if you're not a good person, but you're like practicing those things. To me, it's just like counter. So like I feel like I try to use it as a guide to like just being a good person and a gracious person and like giving to others. And I mean, trying to be like selfless. I'm not saying I'm perfect at all those things, but like that's the goal, right? Like that's like the kind of person like you want to be. And like I feel like I draw a lot of those things from like religion and like spirituality.
Thanks for sharing that. So pivoting a little bit more to your music journey, tell us a little bit about what brought you to this path.
Senior year of high school, this is so goofy. There was this app called Rap Chat. And it was basically like on your phone, and there were just like beats on it, and then you could just rap over it like in your phone.
Oh, wow.
And me and my friends thought that this was the perfect opportunity to just embarrass and annihilate each other over like diss track rap songs. All in like good fun, obviously. So like we just like downloaded this app, and then we just started like diss track after diss track towards each other. And like obviously like I was no Tupac back then, but but like I felt like honestly like I was kind of a creative writer.
Yeah.
And like I felt like I had good, and like even they would tell me like I'd be like dissing them, and they were like, damn, that was good. I thought I was decently like witty, and I had the punchlines to like formulate like those like bars that I look like from rappers that I look up to.
Yeah.
I was able to like copy it at a very, very, very low level.
Yeah.
But like I thought I had enough of a base to where like I thought like I was like decent enough. But like even then, like then I went to college, and like I honestly didn't like make any movement on that front. Like I feel like I was just like absorbing. Like I'm always listening to music, and I was just constantly like listening to music, like watching their interviews, like just seeing how they think. Like to me, the rap is like half of it, but then I get to like, I love like getting to know my favorite artists and like seeing how they actually think and like how they go about things. So like I feel like college, I was just like taking all that in. And then COVID hit.
Yeah.
If you heard. And yeah, I mean, I was just stuck at home like all of us. And kind of just like, you know, kind of did what you did and just kind of like ordered, got the equipment, just like ASAP. I was like, you know what, like I want to do some, like I had a ton of like, I mean, yeah, you don't even have like the free time right now, but I was just like stuck in the house, like nothing to do. Like we're all locked in. So like, you know, I literally just ordered like I went on Amazon, like mic, USB mic.
That's how we all start. Yeah.
Just recording random stuff, just learning the process, and just like made a ton of songs, put like one or two on like SoundCloud, and then I just kind of hit go from there.
Yeah, it all starts with an idea, maybe, you know, clawing on a feeling you had years ago and just tapping into that when you have the time. I think that's the beautiful part about life, is a lot of these things kind of come full circle as we grow up and evolve, and it's a great thing. You mentioned that you would listen to artists and people that would inspire, and you really appreciated kind of getting to know them and seeing who they are holistically. Who are some of your musical inspirations?
I have like the basic answers. I mean, J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, Drake. Super basic, I'm aware, but I mean, they're up there for a reason. The way they not only are just like clever and witty, but like can be so like vulnerable. And like, I mean, I'm not saying I haven't tapped into like that like deep yet.
Sure.
But, like I definitely draw a lot of like, oh, like they can say things about their life, and they can like explain maybe like trauma they've gone through, or like thoughts that they're going through, and like it's like poetic. They can like put that into the world and like for the world to see and relate to. And so I thought that was like a beautiful thing.
I think you touched on a really beautiful point about how a lot of artists can turn their pain into a beautiful creative outlet that people really enjoy. And I do find that I'm not a big rap person, but I do listen to your music, obviously. And some of the rappers that you kind of educated me on a few years back. And I think what I really appreciate about the rappers that you listen to, and specifically your favorite songs, a lot of them have a much deeper meaning. And they go beyond the realm of like, oh, girls and drugs and partying. It's like there's something really of substance there. And I can kind of see the way that's influenced your music, because one of the reasons I love your rap is not just because I'm obligated to by DNA, but also because I really like your play on words. I think you have a lot of wit and double entendres and triple entendres sometimes that are kind of embedded into your lyricism. And it's really impressive because you can tell it's really well thought out. And it's not about money. It's not about girls. It's not about drugs. It's about this. I think there's just kind of this like hunger in you, like this fuel in you. I don't know how to explain it. I can't point to a specific song or lyric, but that's just kind of what I get from listening to your songs all together. So, I mean, tell us a little bit more about that. Like,
my main like mantra, honestly, when it comes to this is like every line like should have like an impact. Like my biggest like pet peeve with like rappers or artists is like when I feel like they're just like, it's called like filler lines. Like they're just like putting in lines just to put it in there. Like they're not really like thinking it through, like thinking it out. And they're just kind of like, or like they're just like, oh, what rhymes with this? And just like slapping lines together.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's definitely songs where like that works and like vibes where that's maybe like the way to go about it. But I'm very big on like every line should add to the song. Like if you can see the line coming, then I don't even like it. Like I don't even want you to see the rhyme coming. I don't want you to see like the direction necessarily. Like I just want it to be like creative and different, and like I want to say something that like other people maybe like aren't saying in the same exact way as me.
Yeah.
The wit aspect of it to me is like the fun. That's like the sport of it to me. Like when I'm like writing, that's like the training of it to me. And I'm like, how clever can I be? How much can I twist these words? How much can I twist these ideas? Like, can I get someone to be like, hold up and go back and listen, or pause it and be like, wait, what did he say? Or third, fourth, fifth listen. They're like, oh, that's what. So that's my like, that's where I get the like the fun from.
Yeah.
My hunger that you also talked on. That's like, I just rap about like what I feel, like the reality, and like I am hungry. Like I'm like very motivated, so like I rap about that a lot because like the way I see it is like I'm not like, and you can probably relate. Like it's hard to be satisfied until you've gotten to like where you want to go, which may not even be a real point. It just may just keep getting pushed, but that's what keeps us going.
Yeah. What does your creative process typically entails? Like what the ideation and process, and how long does the whole thing take? Do you tell yourself, I want to release a song this month, so I need to come up with an idea? Or do you have an idea and you're like, okay, like I want to work on this and release this ASAP? Like what's kind of...
I think anytime I'm like starting a new song or like working on a new song, I never really have release in mind.
Okay.
Because I have so many songs that will never come out. Or like,
oh, wow.
Or like even like half songs, like ideas. Like the name of this game is really just throwing a ton of stuff at the wall until something sticks.
Yeah.
Like that's what it's about. So yeah, in terms of my process, that's really what it is. Like just beat after beat after beat. Like, and I'm just like, am I inspired? Does this like pull something out of me?
Yeah.
And then I have like a long running list of bars in my notes app. My notes app is a mess.
Same with my TikToks. I feel you.
Yeah. The drafts.
Yeah.
Like look through that, and I'm always trying to match the vibe with the like instrumentation, the lyrics. Obviously, like I want it to match. So I'm like, I'm hearing beats, and I'm like going through like ideas. Like I have song ideas, bars, and I'm like, oh, like can I pull any of these here and like use these here? And then if I can, I'll expand. If not, I'll move on to a new thing. Like you gotta just keep like moving. Like it's hard to, you can't get like too stuck on something, or you'll just stay stuck.
See, my mind has never worked in that sort of like witty play on words kind of way. So seeing somebody that I'm related to and so close to being able to do that, it's actually really cool, because I'm like, wow, this is a thing. This, you hear artists in Hollywood do, like you're doing that out of your room in Austin. That's crazy. Obviously, this journey you've been on for a few years now. Actually, I remember when your first song came out, Presidential. That was a really I was so shocked. I was like, who are you? I was like, what? Like I didn't know you were doing this. Can you describe that feeling when you had your kind of first fan or supporter, that first moment where it was a complete stranger that was giving you an honest, like, wow, I love your music and I'm following what you do and keep doing? Like, do you kind of remember that feeling?
To be totally honest, I even got the same feeling when someone would listen to it and like not like hate it, but like critique it or even feedback on my first couple of songs. Like
Oh,
I was just as honored that people like not people I knew, but like I'll be like, oh, like you actually cared enough to like listen. Like to me, that's
yeah,
crazy. Like to me, like indifference is the worst. I would rather you just like it or not like it.
yeah,
Like, but you're like in tune still, kind of.
yeah.
But if you're like indifferent, you don't even care. Like I don't like that because I'm like, oh, then it's not interesting. Then to touch on like the first fan, I mean, yeah, that feeling, it's like euphoric, like,
Yeah.
and you probably like can relate to like the first time someone like you don't know
Yeah.
like takes the time to
Yeah.
say something to you about like how you maybe impacted like just made their day better than anywhere, giving you
It's
any sort of
crazy.
compliment or praise. It's like, wow, it's like hard to believe. Like even now, still
Yeah.
like anytime anyone says anything, it just like blows my mind that these songs that I make like have any reach or impact like for anyone to feel like they want to reach out to the person who made it and like give their like
Yeah.
appreciation.
It's such a surreal feeling. I think, for me, I don't know what to expect. I'm just kind of
Yeah.
putting content out there on TikTok and seeing what kind of sticks. It's like you get those DMs. It's like it's not just words on a screen. There's like a whole person behind that whose day was impacted in the positive manner in which they're describing to you in your messages. And it's not just that. It's the fact that they felt it so strongly and they felt compelled to reach out and let you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like I still can't fathom it. Like not that it's happening every year all the time or
Yeah.
anything. I'm
Yeah.
still like pretty small on TikTok, but even within that, like, it is so mind-boggling that people give you the time of day. It's so flattering. You mentioned, because this is actually something I don't hear often, but the critiquing is actually something that flatters you too.
There's just so much going on like all the time, especially like people are doing so many things.
Yeah.
Like everyone is so busy.
Yeah.
Like, if you care, then like I'm with it. Like
Yeah.
welcome. If
Yeah.
you don't, like that's totally fine. But like,
Were there any kind of milestone moments in your music career so far? I mean, I also want to touch on one of your good friends in the industry, Ubby the Nomad, who I know a lot of people listening to this probably listen to his music too. But tell me a little bit about those milestone moments and those, wow, I can't believe this is happening moments.
shout out that boy Ubby. Getting to know him was really cool. He's in Austin as well, so
Okay.
that kind of like helped out a lot. And yeah, I mean that was definitely like a milestone, kind of having his like I don't know, just having him like kind of show that love and be like,
Yeah.
oh, like almost give me that like push or that confidence, like that there is something here. Cause that's like really, I feel like with artists, it's just about if there's something there.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, maybe it's like cruel, but like I feel like it's either there or it's not sometimes.
No, that's how the world works. Yeah.
And so like to just have any like
Mentorship.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
like that helps. Like just kind of like know that I'm doing the right thing and like I'm on the right path. Milestone moments are also like they're like they can be big, they can be small. For me, like my first open mic, like first show,
Yeah.
like first time performing in front of anybody, like my songs
Yeah.
was like, and like performing my first song and like not having like, I mean obviously like not a ton of people, are just like open mic vibes, and then getting off stage and then getting that like approval and like
Yeah.
oh you're actually like dope, because you also like when you get up there and it's like in front of strangers, like I have to prove myself, of course. Like
course,
that's like
yeah.
everybody. So like to know that like I did prove myself and I got that like acceptance almost is like a great feeling. And then yeah, I mean there's always numerical milestones, this many streams, this many listeners. So
Sure, the numbers game. Do you think one of those moments where I realized that you were like really going? So I mean, I always believed in you, to be fair.
No,
But one of those confirmatory points, I think, was when I saw you working with Ubby. I was like, wait, that's actually crazy that happened. And when I started seeing your live shows and your performances too, the clips of it online, I was just shocked. I was like, oh, you're really doing this. Like you're really immersing yourself into this journey. And I think that's a really lovely thing. And I also think it's good that you have the support and mentorship of kind of like another, brown boy rapper from the same hometown.
for real.
And I think he's I think the fact that he believes in you says a lot. I mean, he mixed your song that came out. Well, I'm
Yeah.
about to date this episode that came out yesterday.
Yeah, damn. Stream dance partner. Even though that's probably like 3 songs old now.
But let's talk a little bit more about the evolution of you through this journey. So walk me
Yeah.
through a little bit about those hard moments, those moments where you're scared or you're doubting yourself.
Like something like this pushes you to be like kind of like break all walls down and like
Yeah.
I mean I was never like a shy person or like super introverted or anything, but it's kind of just like crazy to like even now it still feels like just writing something that maybe a little bit like more personal or like
Sure.
vulnerable or like what it may be perceived however, and just throwing that out into the world in front of everyone you've
Yeah.
ever known, went to school with, grew up with, family, friends,
Yeah.
family here, family there, people I may not know, like almost like finding out about me through this, and then they kind of just like maybe form whatever the opinions they have.
Yeah.
I kind of just had to like let all of that go, like just letting go what people think. I think
Yes.
was a huge thing, because like I was saying earlier, like if you keep that in like the rotation of your mind, you're stuck. Like
Yeah.
it's just hard to move past like, oh, what is this person gonna think? Like, what is this person gonna think? But like, I think like letting go of all that and just kind of being, like I was saying earlier, like almost like trick myself. Like I'll lie to myself. I'm like, oh, like it's fine. No one's listening. Boom, put it out in the world. And then you just like put this thing out there that you work hard, time, money, energy. And it could be praised. It could be ripped apart. It could be like
Sure.
you're just like throwing it out there and then it's just up for whatever. Like
Yeah.
it's just like not even yours anymore. It's just like out in the world and people can do like whatever. So overcoming that, I think
Yeah.
helped me in a lot of other aspects in my life. And also I think just being decisive and just being firm in my decisions,
Yeah.
whether they're like, I don't know, wrong or right, how they end up is a different story. But like just having like going with my gut or going with what I believe is right. Because I mean, I used to probably still am a little bit, but like hard to make like bigger decisions, and you just kind of get this like analysis paralysis.
Yeah. Paradox of choice.
Yeah. And so like this helped me a lot with that for sure.
Oh, that makes sense. And I hear you, the whole subjecting yourself to the public's opinion. I mean, that's really something. I think I
Yeah.
also had to take on a similar mindset. It's funny that you said that. But when it comes to my TikToks, I just like have to tune out the fact that people I know from all different walks of life will be stumbling upon it and like forming their own opinions about who I am. Like
Yeah.
it's scary, you know, a lot of it's a vulnerable thing to put yourself out there and your voice out there and just subject yourself to that sort of that opinion. But I think it's definitely something that's important to get over. It's a hump that needs to be conquered, because otherwise then you're just holding yourself back, and then you're never going to do the
You
thing.
can't, yeah.
So I think that's really important. But one thing that gets me, I think that belief that like, oh, nobody's actually watching this is fun is really helpful. But when somebody in front of me is watching one of my TikToks, I can't. I literally, I'm like, you need to turn that off right now. Like I can't accept the reality that some people are actually watching this. So how do you feel when people play your music in front of you? I mean,
I hate it. I mean, it's like mixed. Like obviously, they do it out of like love.
No,
and
of
so
course,
I'm like
of
very
course.
appreciative.
Yeah.
And I mean, actually, I don't like hate it, but like definitely, I mean, it's like hearing yourself on video. Like I'm not gonna watch this episode, to be honest. Like I just can't. Like, or I'll watch it when it cocomes out, but like I'll have to like brace myself. It's kind of like this meme, like with my friends, like they'll like, I mean, we'll be in the car, we'll be like out or like with other people,
Yeah.
and be like, oh, like play Faaris a song, and it's like in front of like
No,
other people, and
my-
I'm just kind of like head down. I'm like, oh, who's that guy? It's from a good place, obviously.
Yeah. At least for me, it's just the reality in your face that like people are watching.
Yeah.
And it's weird to have it be right in front of you, because there's almost this dynamic of like, well, there's an expectation to react a certain way or respond a certain way. And I hate that dynamic.
I hate that too. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, showing someone like a song, and like, I mean, they don't have to be like bouncing off the walls. It's the greatest song I've ever heard. Like,
Sure.
you know, the expectation thing is definitely real, man. When people are listening or watching it in front of me,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm almost listening to it through them, like through a third
Yeah.
party, like,
Yeah.
oh, like as not the person who made it, like just as like another person, which I mean is like, I mean, helpful and like kind of like,
Yeah. I would almost prefer to be a fly on the wall while strangers are kind of watching and absorbing it. It doesn't solve for everything,
That's
but I think the
interesting,
biggest thing that I feel is like, I feel like this person that I know, they have to like it. Like it's
Yeah.
almost like they have to like, obviously they have to support me. They can't not, otherwise, you know, it makes them feel guilty. It's a guilt-driven like joy. Obviously, that's not why I like your music, but no matter how many times I tell you that, you're not going to believe it, right? Because we're related, and that's fine. I get it. I also would never believe you if you said you watch my TikToks, which I know you don't, by the way. But
Damn.
and,
I knew you were smart. No, I was playing.
At least your parents do.
I
The
do.
good
No,
news
no,
is your
I
parents
watch.
them.
I watch.
Yeah, no, you don't. It's fine.
I take notes.
Okay.
I'm out there, phone propped up, notebook in hand. No, I was kidding. I actually, no.
Put you on the ring light. I just want to put that out there.
What?
Back in 2020, you actually owe me. You're into. I literally put you on the ring light. Yeah, I invented you basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's true. Actually, I should just reconnect the royalties to all just give me your banking info.
Yeah, that'd be really
give
good.
it all there.
I want to talk a little bit more about the dynamics that come with all of this.
Yeah.
So one thing that I struggle with, and I know I'm in the very early innings of this show. Like the first episode hasn't even dropped yet. Like I've just, a week or two into filming. One thing that's really difficult for me is balancing that creative outlet with my full-time job with friendships. And that's one thing that I'm really struggling with these days, to be honest, is constantly saying no to people. I'm always a yes man, yes woman. I'm always the one that's like, I'll be there. Yes, absolutely, I'll be there to support you. But now I'm starting for the first time in my life having to say no, because I just can't be there anymore. I can't be there for other people because I have to invest into this passion project. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, like, how have you been working on? Do you feel like you're under that same kind of trade-off situation? And how do you navigate? I'm
definitely under that. That's actually probably one of my biggest like things I need to work on, honestly. Like you're really good about that, but like me, I mean like I was literally out all night, and like so I need to be like better about. I'm in different city.
Yeah.
But like I need to be better about those things. Like even at home, like there's always things going on, and I mean obviously like I do prioritize like it's a balance, but there's moments where like I need to like be like, okay, no, like this is important to me. Yeah. I almost need to prove to my like self like this is important, right? Like you need to like put your head down and do it if it is, because to me I'm all about also like it's like those like if you just keep putting in like the discipline of it. Yeah. Like if you hit something every day, you won't see the results that week, but in a few months, a year, whatever, like it doesn't matter if you missed a hangout. Sure. But you'll see the benefits of putting in that time and kind of just like saying no to like things you got to say no to sometimes.
I just feel so guilty, and I'm sure it gets better with time.
I mean, the FOMO is real. Like, I feel like if you're like, I'm kind of that person where like, I'm like, oh damn, like I don't want to miss out. Yeah. And miss hanging out and the memories, the memes, everything, like. And so I'm like always there. Honestly, I'm so bad about it.
I think it's good that you're able to balance. I mean, but even like last night, for example, like I wanted to go out with you guys and see everyone. But I literally just had to listen to my body because I was so overworked by my job in finance, and then also like knew that we were filming this morning. I knew that I hadn't actually brainstormed and sat down and thought through our episode. I was like, I just need some time. So I went home, but I had FOMO. I was like, oh my God, I want to be out with you guys. There's like a nice view wherever you guys were of the city. And I was like, oh my God, that place is on my list. And I had to say no. And it sucked. But I think it's moments like that really, I think in the long run count. I think it's important to kind of invest that time and balance, but the more yeses you can give, the better. But it never feels good saying no. Yeah, I don't think it'll ever feel good. But
on the flip side, another thing I've noticed is sometimes I'll say yes and be like, damn, I should have just stayed back and worked on this. Yeah. Like when I'm out, I'm like, damn, like now I'm in like a lose-lose almost. Like, it's like a no winning scenario sometimes. Like
it does feel like that. Sometimes I feel like when I'm out and about now, the few times that I am able to do that these days, there is that sense of like I have this thing I need to get back to. I have this thing I need to. It's constantly running in my mind of like there's this thing that matters a lot to me, and it's really hard to articulate that, I think, to most people. And I know they're really supportive and in kind, but I think there's always that little bit of confusion. Like, okay, like sure, but. Like,
no, for sure. People like it's hard to grasp. They're like, well, why can't you just like
like do it later? It's like, no, I have to do this now. I feel
the hard part is like when you're still kind of in that process of like trying to reach your goals. It's even harder because like, oh, like you're not all that. You don't need to be like these ain't no excuses to be like missing these things. But it's like I'm trying to get to all that, So for that, I gotta be like put my head down. Like it's like if I was like. If like a big artist comes up to you, like you're not gonna tell them like they're like, oh, I can't, like I gotta do a studio show, whatever. You're not gonna question them.
Yeah, exactly.
But like in the stage that we're in right now, like it gets questioned because it's like, oh, it's just a hobby. Like you can skip it. It's whatever. So.
Yeah, and it's like, no, this is not a hobby. It's something that you actually can see having long-term, you can feel it. You don't just sit, you feel it every day and it drives you.
No.
So I think it's really hard to articulate that sometimes. On another note, I know the general reaction has been largely positive. You know, everybody's like really supportive. Do you think that people have started treating you differently, whether it's better or worse? And how do you think it's changed the way that people in your life see you?
Conversations have changed a lot. Like
Yeah.
when I see people after a long time, like it's just about this now.
Yeah.
And like that just like comes with it. Like I'm just like, you kind of just make this decision and it's just like becomes your thing and your like brand. And it's like now like
Yeah.
whenever you see people, like they're gonna ask you about it. Anytime you like run into people who know about this show, like they're gonna be like, how's the show, this, that.
Yeah.
So it's like in terms of like being treated different, not really. I'm like 2% nicer. They're trying to get like some help or some a feature or something.
One thing that I find really interesting about your path in music is you're living in Austin and you're happy with that, which is great, by the way. Austin's
Happy is a strong
great
word, but
city.
no, I'm just kidding.
But I think a lot of artists, as soon as they have the idea to start making music and get a little bit of track, and they just pick up and go to LA or New York City. And I'm just curious, about your decision to stay in Austin. Tell me a little bit more about that.
I feel like the first few years premature to come out here. I think like it would have been like in those first 2-3 years, like 2021, 2022, and like even 2023. Like I don't think I was like really at a point where like I had like something like, I mean, I had something tangible, but like I feel like now I have a lot more confidence. I could come out here now and now like I know a lot of like people out here that I met through social media and like over the years of like doing this, other artists, other just people in the like creative space. So and like I'm definitely not even just open to the idea, but like that's kind of the plan, honestly. Like I want to do that. I think I just kind of needed the last like a few years to like find my footing a little bit and just like establish a good like base. And I think Austin was like really good for that. Really perfect. And like the music scene there, I mean, obviously like not huge, but it was like just like it's just good enough to like get involved and meet people and not feel like whatever, like small fish in a big pond or whatever. And like just drown out here, which a lot of people do.
Just a lot of noise, and it's hard to compete. But I think Austin's good because you kind of have the support of family too there, which is nice. I think New York City, it's great, obviously, but it can be isolating. You're far away from everybody that you love and and it's a risk and it's a decision that you have to take to really invest in yourself. But it's not always rainbows and butterflies. I think it's good that you're starting off kind of close to home and then thinking about venturing out once you've established kind of that base. I really admire one thing that you said. You talked about it would have been premature. I think it's really important to have that level of self-awareness and analysis when it comes to these big decisions, because I think a lot of people just jump right in without really thinking it through. And it can bite them, later and it become a regret actually, which is sad. But I think it speaks to your thought process that you're able to kind of say, okay, this right now is premature, but one day I know I want to do it.
I also have to win the people around me first. Like my family, my friends, like I almost have to like convince, and even just like people in Austin, like I have to convince them that this is worth taking somewhere. Like, like you were saying, like people just decide to do something, pack their bags and go, which is like totally fine. And like a lot of people have like success with that. But just like for me, I just think that would have been way too early. And I think like, I don't know, you get kind of just lost in the sauce. Like you can if you kind of just like think about it like that.
It's always good in life to have kind of a concrete plan and understand what it is you're actually doing. So another thing I want to talk to you about actually is your identity as a Muslim South Asian guy in the rap space. So tell me a little bit more about that. Have there been any struggles, I think, with that?
I feel like there are not a ton of people like South Asian people who kind of in this space. There's obviously a lot more now, and honestly now it's like flourishing, especially here in like New York. Like there's so many
it's huge
dope South Asian artists here, but I definitely find myself kind of, we were talking about earlier, like having to prove myself. Like I don't know, maybe it's I don't know, appearance, where I look, like whatever. Like I don't think I walk in and anybody's like, oh, I bet he's a dope rapper or artist. Or I walk in, it's kind of like a base. If anything, it's probably a little bit negative. Like, oh, I honestly kind of like that, because then I will do like a performance and then they're like, oh, wow, you like, because I mean, expectations are like low.
Right.
And honestly, like keeping them low.
Keep the bar
So
low.
that I just like surpass them by like a mile, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people can see it as like a hindrance, but
Sure.
I think I honestly kind of like it because it also sets me apart. I feel like in this space, being unique is everything.
Yeah.
And it helps me stand out. It helps me be unique. So I see it more of as like a advantage than like a crutch.
Talked about this in the past. Like, you know, sometimes you show up to an open mic and you're the only South Asian.
Yeah,
you
for
know,
sure. I mean,
you're-
that's like, yeah,
like-
most times, if not every time, honestly.
yeah, but you do it every single time you do it, and you earn their respect. And I think it's a good kind of process to put yourself through over and over again. It's like getting the reps in, you know, because that's what
Exactly,
you have to
yeah.
do as an artist. You have to prove yourself to a sea of strangers that frankly don't care about you until they have something they care about.
I feel like that used to be kind of like a white rapper thing. Like white rappers like really had to prove themselves, but now there are so many famous white rappers.
Yeah.
So, like now they're not even like questioned or anything. I mean, they are for sure, and they should be. But like the ones that are good are fire.
Yeah.
So like now I feel like we're kind of this new like emerging
Yeah.
brand of rappers coming in, and it's just how it goes. Like it's totally normal, I think.
Yeah. Talking on the marketing front a little bit, let's talk social media for a minute. So what has your relationship been with social media? And I think one thing for me is, you know, I always try to focus on content and impact and connecting with people. But I would be lying if I said there weren't times where the stats kind of eat away at you a little bit. And it can be just, sometimes it's encouraging, sometimes it's discouraging. And I think it's the extremities of emotion and the polarity of it is so, it can be controlling sometimes to your mind.
It's love-hate for sure. It can obviously be like really beneficial. And I mean, nowadays social media is like the tool. That is like how you're doing it. Like that's where the game is of anything like creative, really. The flip side of that, like you put hours and hours and hours into something.
Yeah.
And then like no payoff.
Yeah.
I feel like I've kind of just had to teach myself to just keep pushing through that, like numbers, it's whatever. Obviously, like it's kind of like demoralizing when you put so much work into something and then you feel like people aren't seeing it. You're just kind of like into a void.
Yeah. I know
But
the feeling.
I think you just have to keep just pushing through that. I'm still like working through that. Like I don't really care about like likes and stuff too much, but like I do use it as a metric of like, oh, do they even care enough to keep updated? Do they know what's going on? Are they like watching? Like it definitely, that's like the double-edged sword of it.
Yeah, blessing and a curse, but ultimately we're lucky to be in a time where our reach can be so broad. Yeah. But then with that comes a lot of noise, right? Then there's so many more people that you're competing against. So I don't know what the net is, net positive or net negative. I don't think we can say really, but I think it's interesting and it's new. It's nice to see our generation kind of grapple with those changes. One other thing I wanted to touch on is, you know, in your songs, in your first song that came out, you talk about the Kylies, you talk about the Kendalls. Tell us a little bit about your love life. What's kind of been like your philosophy with that? I mean, are you like hanging out with
Kylie and Kendall
every single day? I mean, I don't know this about you. Maybe there's a different side to you.
I mean, I like love. Right?
Okay, yeah. Insightful.
A lover, certified lover boy for sure.
So you guys know the videographer just groaned when she heard that. Rightfully so.
I did too a little bit, but it was right there. Like I had to take it. I'm not like someone who's like, I'm gonna be like single forever or anything. Like I definitely want to settle down, have kids, have a family, like all of that. 100%. Find the one.
You go for it.
Yeah.
Would you write a song for your wife?
I mean, yeah, probably. I feel like if I have other songs about maybe other exes or women, I might not gonna have one about my wife, you know?
Would recommend you write a song for her.
It's not like this is a song about my wife, this is a song about this person. It's just like drawing inspiration. Like I may have a song and the song is not just called My Wife and the lyrics are I love my wife, but it's like a verse, a chorus, a few lines are drawn from like that inspiration of like, or just like that significant other, like, and that's still the case now. Like, that's how you kind of go about it. So like in that sense, I will have songs about, you know, my wife, like, like she'll inspire songs just like
naturally
in the way that like friends, parents, siblings like inspire stuff. So
yeah, exactly.
It's another Another character in my life.
Just another character? Oh God,
But
I'll
like
tell her
like
that
a
one.
main one, like a good character.
A main character?
Like a character I choose.
Yeah, character of choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'll let her know. I'll actually play this back at your wedding.
Hey, I'm a character too in her. Like I'm probably the side.
You should be the
in
side
their life.
actually.
That's cool.
Speaking of, I know you actually performed at some of your friends' weddings and stuff. Are you gonna be performing at your own wedding?
I can already see the aunties and uncles just like, are you performing? And like everybody, I mean, like it's a fair question, really. Maybe it's already so much other stress going on around wedding planning. Like with my friends' weddings, it's nice because I'm not wedding planning, so I just have to worry about a rap or a dance or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like for my friend. But like for myself, maybe that's where that wife song comes out. I don't know. Honestly, probably, yeah. Just the short answer.
Yeah. On the topic of love, I know a lot of your music is inspired by kind of your life experiences and your emotions and thoughts and observations. What have been your key learnings from love thus far in your life? What have you learned about yourself, learned about the world?
Damn. I have learned I'm a certified lover boy. Not sure.
I literally.
Yeah, any relationship you find yourself a bit more and like you learn something about yourself, both positive and negative.
Right.
So like I see sides of myself that I've not seen before because you don't have this sort of relationship with anybody else. It's a very like unique like thing, like special connection with this like one person. So it's like you learn like the good, the bad, the ugly. Like, oh, maybe I'm really obviously like I try to be good and caring, but I don't know, maybe I'm like I have these other things I need to work on.
Yeah,
like,
we all do.
Better be more like open, listening, maybe not be so stubborn. Like, I mean, these are like things that like I never really thought about. And then when you kind of have someone that you're always like just like bouncing off of, you kind of just these things come out more and you're like, oh, I didn't even know this was in me. Like for better or for worse.
That's come out of you for sure. It's really surprising. I think love is one of those things that brings out a different part of people's brains. And I think you learn a lot about yourself. You look at the world through a different lens, I think, after that, because, you know, it's where the fundamentals of your upbringing come out. I think it's where your anxieties, your insecurities, your fears can come out, but your strengths too. So I think it's a beautiful thing that should be celebrated. And I love that you, in a very tasteful way, kind of touch on that throughout your music without making that the focal point. And I think that's good. I think a lot of times when every single song from somebody's about love, it's like, okay, like, yeah, it's a beautiful emotion in it. It's empowering and I get it, but sometimes it feels like there needs to be more substance. And I love that your music has that. I think your music has huge potential, which leads me to my next question. What are your plans for the future? And you know, maybe take a step back. What would be your I made it milestone? Like, what would be your definition of success? And then what are the steps that you're taking in the near term and the long term to kind of make it there?
I have my like cliche answers, but then I have just like my very practical answers. Like I would love to just be able to do this full time.
Yeah.
Like just have this be like my main focus, my only focus.
Yeah.
I put like it already feels that way, but like just put my 110% into this and nothing else is pulling me in any other direction. I don't have to worry about this, that, and the third, and I can just like go all in.
Yeah.
That would be a huge kind of success metric.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, in terms of steps, to me, like I'm usually not a very patient person, but with this, I'm super like long game in mind.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, this is all about the long game, like 5 years, 10 years. Honestly, like I want to be like in my 30s and be like, I'm so glad I did that when I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
Like I'm so glad I started this, which I feel like is how every person who's made it would feel. Like all these rappers, like you see those videos of like like Jack Harlow rapping when he's like 12.
Yeah.
It's like I'm sure he's so grateful that he took it upon himself to like take that initiative and like get something going, and now he's thanking himself for it.
Yeah.
So it's like that's the idea, I guess.
I know you alluded to this a little bit when we were talking a bit about rapping out of Austin. But do you have any plans to move in the next couple of years?
Yeah, for sure. New York's lit.
Yeah. You're just gonna come over and copy me?
Hopefully they'll be out of here by then, but
yeah, no, I don't know about that.
it's like New York, LA are like the big hubs.
Yeah.
And I'm already very quite back and forth between all these places.
Yeah. It's true.
And that will continue for sure, no matter where I live. But yeah, no, definitely plans to move. I mean, I don't have like a great timeline or even location, but like, I mean, one of these two cities would be my guess. And yeah, within the next year or two, maybe.
Okay, so there's a 50-50
Maybe
chance
sooner, yeah, I don't-
you'll be nearby. That's
I don't know, New
daunting.
York's pretty big.
Stay far away from here.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
probably a good
I think
idea.
that's where I need to be.
Don't go knocking on your door if you're living too far away. So
Perfect.
that's the
Bold of you to assume you'll have the address.
I have you on Fine Friends. Any final words, any key messages that you'd want to share with the world? You got one sentence. What's it going to be?
My big thing is how like having no like regrets. For me personally, the worst thing in the world is the idea that one day I'm gonna be a lot older and just have regret and be like, I should have done those things. I should have tried. Like I should have at least pursued like and given it my all. Like, when am I gonna look back and be like, damn, I did it, and now like it's too late, or it just can't do it the same way. Like life gets busy. So I mean that's just like my main thing for anything really. Like just do what you want to do to the point where you won't have any regrets, and you can at least say that you gave it your all, whether it worked out or not.
Yeah, life as this journey, right? And I think that if you lived your life in fear of failure, you would have never lived it at all. And it's a little bit of a cliche, but the reality is you don't lose anything by giving something a try. I think failure is actually a beautiful thing, and it should be celebrated because it means that you gave it your all. The worst thing, exactly what you said, would be to look back later and think to yourself, how would my life be right now if I had tried when I had that spark in me? So I think that's a beautiful message, to just take advantage of that drive and that ambition and verve while it's consuming your thoughts, and just turn it into reality. I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I'm actually surprised we kept that mostly serious. That was much better than I thought it would go, actually.
Oh, yeah. I told you I keep the bar low.
Yeah.
We're happy when it's not bad.
It's a good method. But thanks for opening up. I know it's like weird to open up with family sometimes. So thanks for doing that in front of a camera, on a mic. So I appreciate it. And that is all for today. I'm your host, Sandalina Sattar, signing off. Cool. Oh my God.
God.
Oh my God.